For remaining 80% current affairs video and general studies complete videos, please subscribe to our complete package. 4. Being a rapidly growing economy, coal is set to be the mainstay of India's energy mix until 2030. In the years to come, obviously there will be an increased pressure at global levels for cleaner coal. What are the proposals put forward by Indian-based chemistry professor for extracting maximum clean energy from coal without leaving carbon dioxide to escape into the atmosphere? GS Paper 3, Environmental Issues, Global Coal Issues. Why recently in news? At the Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, Pune, Dr. Ramanathan Vaidyanathan, a young assistant professor at the Department of Chemistry, has put forward views for cleaning up the coal. He searched and tested a variety of materials that could improve the efficiency of extracting maximum clean energy from coal without leaving carbon dioxide to escape into atmosphere. What are the highlights of the research? First, burn the coal with extremely hot steam and separate the resulting hydrogen from the effluent carbon dioxide. Separated hydrogen can be used as non-polluting fuel. This process will be done using specialized sponges, subjecting them to cycles of high and low pressure. They have designed these sponges using nickel and isonicotinic acid. These sponges are relatively impervious to moisture, more long-lasting compared to those previously proposed ones anywhere around the world. Is clean coal energy viable in India? The approach might appear to be a long shot given the expenses involved. The coal-fired power plants in India must do their best to wash the coal so as to reduce the ash content. To even contemplate cleaning coal with these scrubbers before it is burnt requires precisely the huge kind of investments. From the recently concluded United Nations Climate Change Conference in Paris, it is clear that India is looking towards developed countries to implement these. What is the way forward for India? India's trajectory in adopting new technology for coal plants say that carbon capture techniques appear expensive. India would be unlikely to adopt them until other countries take to it and attain demonstrably greater levels of efficiency. For the near future, I don't think India will concentrate much beyond these. The key challenges would be in transporting the collected carbon dioxide and finding safe locations to bury it. 5. How can tropical forests help in achieving a below 2°C rise in global warming by 2050? GS Paper 3, Conservation of Environment. Why recently in news? Tropical forests can play a major role in the reduction of atmospheric carbon and achieve a below 2°C rise in global warming by 2050, says a recent study published in the journal Nature Climate Change. A transition from fossil fuels to that on renewable sources of energy requires minimum 35 years, says the study. The study finds that tropical forests can be the bridge to this transition by uptaking the atmospheric carbon in much speedy manner. According to Dr. R. Ray Houghton, enhancing carbon uptake and reducing emissions could account for as much as 50% of total carbon emissions. What are his calculations? Total carbon emission works out to 13 units, that is 9 units from fossil fuels emissions and 4 units from land use, out of which 3 units of carbon from the atmosphere will be sequestered by forests, remaining behind the 10 units. while the total carbon present can be further reduced to 6 units by eliminating land use emissions. Reforesting the large area will contribute to uptake of 1 unit. Thus 50% of present-day carbon in atmosphere. Are these calculations possible practically? To achieve a 75% likelihood of avoiding warming in excess of 2 degrees Celsius through changes in fossil fuel emissions alone, such emissions would have to be eliminated over the next 20 years or less. In order to achieve this, tropical forest management should remove 5 billion metric tons of carbon per year from the atmosphere over the period of next 10 years. Then fossil fuel emissions should held constant for the next 10 years, and then reduced linearly to a level equal to 20% of 2014 emissions by 2050, before further linear reduction to zero by 2100. How it should be forest management in the tropics to achieve estimated target. First, deforestation and degradation of forests in tropical regions currently release into the atmosphere about 1 billion metric tons of carbon per year. If these were stopped, those emissions would cease. Second, carbon is removed from the atmosphere by secondary forests that are recovering from harvest. This gross rate of uptake is taking place now. If shifting cultivation were replaced by permanent cultivation, the fallows would return to forests, taking up carbon as they grow. If fallows were to return to forests, up to 3 billion metric tons of carbon per year will get accumulated in growing forests. A third activity, more difficult to achieve than the first two because of higher costs per hectare, is the re-establishment of forests on lands previously forested but not currently used productively. Conclusion. The study is especially significant because forest management can be much more easily and quickly implemented than development of alternate renewable energy technologies. It would account for much of the reduction in atmospheric carbon until reliable and efficient renewable energy technologies are put in place.